In Season 2, Episode 1 of the Netflix show Outer Banks, titled The Gold, the Pogues are back in action. The episode starts off with John B. and Sarah on a boat heading towards the Bahamas, where they hope to find the gold that John B.'s father was searching for before he disappeared. Meanwhile, the rest of the Pogues are back in the Outer Banks, dealing with the aftermath of the hurricane that hit at the end of the first season. Back in the Outer Banks, Kiara is struggling to deal with the fact that John B. and Sarah have left without telling her, while Pope and JJ are trying to come up with a plan to get John B. and Sarah back. They soon discover that the gold they're looking for is connected to a notorious criminal named Carla Limbre, who is also searching for the treasure. John B. and Sarah arrive in the Bahamas and start their search for the gold, but they soon realize that they're not the only ones looking for it. They come across a group of treasure hunters who are also searching for the gold, and a fight breaks out. Eventually, John B. and Sarah manage to escape and continue their search. Back in the Outer Banks, the Pogues come up with a plan to find out more about Carla Limbre and her connection to the gold. They decide to attend a party that she is throwing in order to get closer to her and find out more information. However, things don't go as planned, and the Pogues end up getting into trouble. The episode ends with John B. and Sarah finding a clue that leads them closer to the gold, while the rest of the Pogues are in a dangerous situation back in the Outer Banks. In Episode 2 of the Netflix show Outer Banks, titled The Heist, the Pogues continue their search for answers about the gold and their missing friends. Here's a summary of what happens. John B. and Sarah continue their search for the gold in the Bahamas, but they realize they need help from a local expert to identify a valuable key they found. They seek out a man named Cleo, who agrees to help them in exchange for a cut of the treasure. However, their search is interrupted when they're confronted by a group of men who are after the key. After a high-speed chase, they manage to escape and hide the key. Back in the Outer Banks, the rest of the Pogues are on a mission to rescue Pope, who was kidnapped by Rafe and his father, Ward. They come up with a plan to break into Ward's house and retrieve the information they need to find their missing friends. The heist goes smoothly, and they find a map that leads them to a secret island where they hope to find the gold. However, the Pogues' plan is complicated by the arrival of the police, who are searching for John B. and Sarah. The Pogues split up, with Kiara and JJ distracting the police while Pope and his father sneak away to find the gold. Meanwhile, back in the Bahamas, John B. and Sarah confront Cleo, who they suspect of double-crossing them. The episode ends with the Pogues discovering a hidden bunker on the secret island, but they're interrupted by the arrival of Rafe and Ward, who have caught up to them. The two sides face off, setting up the conflict for the rest of the season. In Episode 3 of the Netflix show Outer Banks, titled Prayers, the Pogues continue their search for the gold and their missing friends. Here's a summary of what happens. The episode opens with a flashback to John B.'s childhood, revealing more about his relationship with his father and their quest for the gold. In the present day, the Pogues are on the secret island searching for the gold, but they're interrupted by the arrival of Rafe and Ward. The two groups face off, but the Pogues manage to escape with the help of a new ally, a woman named Limbre. Limbre reveals that she's also searching for the gold, but for different reasons. She believes that it's connected to a mysterious artifact called the Cross of Santo Domingo, which she claims has healing powers. The Pogues are skeptical, but agree to work with her to find the gold and their missing friends. Back in the Bahamas, John B. and Sarah are still trying to track down the gold, but they're running out of leads. They team up with Cleo again and discover a hidden bunker that belonged to John B.'s father. Inside, they find a map that leads them to a shipwreck where they hope to find the gold. Meanwhile, back in the Outer Banks, Kiara is struggling to come to terms with the fact that her parents are getting divorced. She confides in Pope, who helps her realize that she needs to forgive her parents and move on. The two share a sweet moment and hint at a possible romance. The episode ends with the Pogues arriving at the shipwreck and diving into the water to search for the gold. They find a clue that leads them closer to their goal, but they're interrupted by the arrival of Rafe and some hired guns. A shootout ensues, setting up the conflict for the rest of the season. In Episode 4 of the Netflix show Outer Banks titled Homecoming, the Pogues continue their search for the gold and their missing friends, but they also have to deal with personal issues and challenges. Here's a summary of what happens. The episode opens with a flashback to Kiara's childhood, revealing more about her family and her struggles to fit in with her privileged classmates. In the present day, Kiara is still dealing with the fallout of her parents' divorce, but she finds comfort in spending time with the Pogues. Meanwhile, John B. and Sarah are still searching for the gold in the Bahamas, but their relationship is strained by the stress and danger of their mission. They have a fight, and Sarah reveals that she's struggling with the guilt of leaving her family behind to be with John B. Back in the Outer Banks, the Pogues attend the annual homecoming dance, where they hope to gather information about Rafe and his family. Kiara has a confrontation with her ex-boyfriend, Topper, who tries to win her back but is ultimately rejected. Pope has a heart-to-heart with his father, who encourages him to follow his dreams of becoming a doctor. During the dance, the Pogues discover that Rafe and Ward have a secret offshore bank account, which they believe is connected to the gold. They hatch a plan to steal Rafe's phone and access the account, but their plan is complicated by the arrival of Topper and Rafe's girlfriend, who threaten to expose their scheme. The episode ends with John B. and Sarah finding a clue that leads them closer to the gold, while the Pogues manage to steal Rafe's phone and access the bank account. However, their victory is short-lived when they discover that the account has been emptied. They realize that they're running out of time to find the gold and save their friends. In episode 5 of the Netflix show Outer Banks, titled The Darkest Hour, the Pogues face major setbacks in their search for the gold and their missing friends. Here's a summary of what happens. The episode opens with a flashback to Pope's childhood, revealing more about his family and his academic ambitions. In the present day, Pope is still dealing with the pressure of his schoolwork and his responsibilities as a Pogue. He's also worried about JJ, who's still missing and may be in danger. Meanwhile, John B. and Sarah are still searching for the gold in the Bahamas, but they're running out of time and resources. They're also being pursued by a dangerous group of smugglers who are after the gold and will stop at nothing to get it. Back in the Outer Banks, the Pogues are trying to regroup and come up with a new plan to find the gold and their friends. They discover that Rafe has been working with a local power broker named Limbri, who may be connected to the mystery of the Cross of Santo Domingo. The Pogues hatch a new plan to track down Limbri and get information from her about the gold and their missing friends. They stage a break-in at her mansion, but their plan is complicated by the arrival of the police, who are responding to a false alarm set by Topper. The Pogues manage to escape from the mansion, but they're pursued by the police and end up in a dangerous situation on a bridge. JJ, who has been hiding out in the marshes, comes to their rescue and helps them evade the police. The episode ends with the Pogues realizing that they need to work together and trust each other in order to find the gold and their friends. They're determined to keep fighting, even in the darkest hour,